My name is Emma Collins, and I'm 17 years old. If you asked anyone at Lincoln High about me, they'd probably say something like, "Oh, the quiet girl," or "She's smart, kind of awkward, keeps to herself." I was the kind of student teachers appreciated but students ignored. I didn't party. I didn't post selfies. I didn't run with the popular crowd. But none of that mattered the moment Madison Lane turned her eyes on me. You see, I wasn't always like this, calculated, cold, and filled with something deeper than anger. I used to be soft. I used to believe that if you kept your head down, life would leave you alone. But that was before I became her target. Before she made me into something else. Something she'll soon regret. Everything changed at the beginning of junior year. It was the first week of September. The kind of week where the sun still clings to summer and the hallways buzz with fresh notebooks and fake promises to stay focused this year. I remember walking through the front doors of Lincoln High wearing my favorite gray hoodie, earbuds in, avoiding eye contact. It was just another day of trying to survive the social battlefield. Madison Lane entered that same hallway like a storm dressed in designer clothes. Long platinum hair, flawless makeup, expensive heels clicking on the tiles. She didn't walk, she claimed space. People moved for her, like water parting around a ship. She smiled at some, sneered at others, and everyone just accepted it. That was the natural order of things. Her reputation wasn't just about popularity. It was fear. Madison had this terrifying ability to destroy people without ever laying a finger on them. One rumor from her, one dirty secret leaked, and you could go from star athlete to social ghost in 24 hours. And the scariest part? She enjoyed it. It wasn't just power, it was sport. I never thought I'd end up on her radar. Why would she even care that I existed? But everything changed because of one person. Zach Carter. Zach was my lab partner in chemistry. Tall, thoughtful, sharp-witted. He didn't talk to me out of pity or politeness. We actually connected. I remember the first time he made me laugh. It was something dumb he whispered during Mr. Klein's long-winded lecture on molecular bonds. But it was real. We started studying together after school, texting each other late at night about things that had nothing to do with chemistry. He made me feel seen in a way no one else ever had. I should have known better, because Zach Carter used to date Madison Lane. They weren't together anymore, at least not publicly, but it didn't matter. In Madison's world, the people she touches never stop being hers. Possession doesn't end with a breakup. And if someone else dares to breathe in her direction, it's considered a betrayal. The first shot fired was subtle. I walked into the cafeteria one afternoon and felt a hush ripple across the tables. Laughter followed. Whispers. I sat down at my usual table in the back, trying to ignore it, until I opened my lunchbox and found a dead rose crushed inside, petals soaked in some kind of black dye. A note was tucked beneath it. Graveyards are full of girls who didn't know their place. No name. No handwriting I could recognize. But I knew. We all knew. Things escalated quickly after that. My locker jammed every morning. Notes slipped into my backpack, calling me names I won't repeat. A text from an unknown number that said, "Better run, chemistry girl. You're playing with fire." But I said nothing. Not because I was scared. Not in the way people think. It wasn't fear that kept me quiet, it was strategy. I knew Madison expected me to cry, to beg, to drop out of Zach's life like a coward. But I didn't. Instead, I waited. Until the night she decided to go public. It was Friday. I'd stayed late at school, helping Mrs. Norton organize history books in the basement room under the library. When I came back upstairs to grab my things and head home, the hallway was eerily empty. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, it feels planned. As I approached my locker, I knew something was wrong. The smell hit me first, acrid like paint or bleach. My heart started racing. My locker was wide open, books and papers shredded, notebooks torn apart, photographs missing. Even my backpack had been dumped out and covered in some foul-smelling gunk. But that wasn't the worst part. Spray painted across the metal door in thick, dripping red paint was a word that stopped me cold. Liar. I didn't understand it at first. Then I saw the phone taped to the inside of the locker. The screen was cracked, but it was recording. I ripped it down and turned it off, my hands trembling. The next morning, the video was everywhere. Not just at school, on Snapchat, on Instagram, even on someone's TikTok. The edited clip showed me standing in front of my destroyed locker, frozen, helpless. And layered over the video, like a soundtrack, was Madison's voice, mocking, sweet, dripping with fake concern. Poor Emma, caught lying to everyone, caught trying to steal someone who doesn't belong to her. Guess she's not so invisible anymore. The video racked up views by the hundreds. That day I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even go to school. I sat in my bedroom, the blinds closed, lights off, watching the video again and again until the numbness in my chest turned into something hot, something primal, something that didn't burn out, because something broke inside me that day. And Madison Lane didn't just break my heart or my spirit. She created something. She turned Emma Collins, the invisible girl, the quiet nerd, the girl who wouldn't hurt a fly, into something cold and calculating. And now I'm watching her. Every move, every smile, every friend, every lie, because I know things. I see things no one else notices. And I have patience. She thinks she's untouchable, that I'll disappear like the others. But she's wrong. She doesn't know what I'm planning. And by the time she finds out, it'll be too late. After the video, the old Emma Collins was dead. No funeral, no tears, just silence and smoke, like the aftermath of a quiet explosion. Something deep inside me had shifted, and once it did, I couldn't go back. Not even if I wanted to. I spent that weekend locked in my room, barely eating, barely sleeping. My parents were worried, sure. But what could they do? I told them it was just school stress. They bought it. They always did. They never looked close enough to see the fire rising behind my eyes. On Sunday night, while most kids were scrolling mindlessly through their feeds or finishing homework they'd ignored all weekend, I sat at my desk in complete darkness except for the blue light of my laptop screen. The video of my humiliation still floated around. But now I wasn't watching it as a victim. I was studying it, watching her. Madison's voice in the clip wasn't just taunting, it was calculated. I slowed it down, replayed the smirk she used at the end of her voiceover, the way her followers laughed in the background. And I realized something important. It wasn't just about hurting me. It was about control. She needed people to see her power. But even queens can bleed. You just have to find where the armor cracks. So I started with something small. Monday morning, I walked into school like nothing happened. Not with confidence, but not with shame either. I didn't hide my face. I wore it like a shield. The whispers started instantly. The stares. The oh my God, that's her looks. I didn't flinch. I let them talk. I made it to my locker, which someone had finally cleaned, though the paint had stained the inside. And I calmly pulled out my books. I could feel Madison watching me from down the hall. I didn't look her way. That was the first rule. Never give her the satisfaction. That day I avoided Zach. It wasn't because I blamed him. I didn't. He hadn't posted the video. He hadn't said anything cruel. But he also hadn't defended me. He'd gone quiet, disappeared into the background. And silence in a war like this is the same as betrayal. Instead, I watched. I watched Madison, her circle of loyal shadows, Brielle, the toxic second-in-command who repeated everything Madison said like scripture, Tori, the one who filmed everything on her phone and always acted innocent, and Kylie, who smiled sweetly while doing the dirtiest work. I memorized their schedules, where they sat in class, what time they left for lunch, who they texted in the hallway. I noticed the tension between Brielle and Madison, subtle like a crack in glass. Brielle was jealous, constantly trying to match Madison's energy, but always falling short. Madison knew it, and she used it like a leash. By Wednesday, I had a plan. I knew Madison's weakness wasn't just attention, it was control. She hated the idea of not knowing what people were saying about her. She'd go ballistic if she ever thought someone was talking behind her back. And so I gave her exactly that. I created a new Instagram account. No name. No profile pic. Just an empty bio with a black heart. And I called it @QueenSnakeFiles. The first post was a blurry photo, clearly taken from the second floor of the school, showing Madison talking to a male teacher after class. The caption was vague, just enough to stir curiosity. She always gets what she wants. But does he know what she really is? I followed exactly 7 people. Not randoms, people close to Madison. People who loved gossip but never kept secrets. Within 3 hours, the account had 67 followers. By the next morning, 241. I didn't post anything cruel. Not yet. Just hints. Suspicion. Whispers. A photo of her skipping class. A voice memo with background noise, and one line from her conversation with Brielle. Honestly, if she vanishes, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Was she talking about me? Probably. But that didn't matter. The seed was planted. I could see it in her eyes the next day, the flicker of confusion, of doubt. People were whispering in the halls again, but this time not about me. On Friday, I sat in the library during lunch, pretending to work on an essay while watching the Queen of Lincoln High unravel one thread at a time. Brielle stormed out of the cafeteria. Madison followed her moments later, voice raised. They thought they were being quiet, but the door between the hallway and the stacks was paper thin. I heard every word. What the hell did you say to Tori? Nothing. You think I'm the one running that account? You think I'd do that to you? Don't play dumb, Bree. You've been jealous since sophomore year. And you've been paranoid since the day Zach dumped your cold, controlling ass. Silence. Then footsteps. Rapid, angry. And just like that, the cracks deepened. I closed my notebook, slowly, my hand steady. My heart calm. Because this was only the beginning. You don't destroy someone like Madison Lane with fire. You do it with a scalpel. And I had just made my first cut. People say revenge is sweet. They're wrong. It's not sweet. It's silent, precise. And when done right, it doesn't taste like sugar. It tastes like control. That Friday night, while most students were posting selfies at the football game or lining up at Taylor's house for the usual underage drinking and fake friendships, I was at home, alone at my desk with a notebook and a storm in my head. I had one goal: undo Madison Lane from the inside out. Not by turning everyone against her. That would be too obvious. She'd see it coming. No, I wanted her to do it to herself. So I planned my next move. Turn her friends into suspects. Make her circle shrink. Make her paranoid. Because once paranoia sets in, control slips. And Madison without control, that's a weapon waiting to backfire. Saturday morning, I created another anonymous account. This one for direct messages only. I called it TruthTeller97. I used a VPN. I used throwaway emails. Nothing could link it back to me. I wasn't some amateur with a grudge. I was careful, methodical. The first DM went to Tori. She told Brielle what you did at Spring Fling. Wonder how long until she tells the school. I knew Tori's biggest fear. Being exposed for what she did with someone else's boyfriend that night behind the gym. I didn't even have to say a name. She'd fill in the blanks herself. I sent a similar message to Kylie, hinting that Brielle had told people she was behind the fake tutor scam from sophomore year, the one that got a poor girl suspended. And to Brielle, I sent the most dangerous one of all. Madison says she trusts you, but ask her what she really told Zach after the breakup. That one was my favorite, because even if there was no secret, Brielle wouldn't believe that. She'd dig. She'd question. And in Madison's world, doubt is betrayal. By Monday morning, the school felt different. There was tension now, like something electrical in the air, invisible but crackling. I watched them from a distance. At lunch, Brielle kept glancing down at her phone, jaw clenched. Tori barely spoke, and Kylie didn't even sit at their table. Madison sat at the center of it all, smiling, but her smile looked forced, tight at the edges. It had begun. That afternoon, I passed by the girls' bathroom and heard voices inside, heated, sharp. "She's lying. I didn't say that to Zach." That was Madison's voice. "Then what did you say?" Brielle snapped back. "I don't owe you a breakdown of every conversation I've had in my life, Brie. You think I'm stupid? I know you've been feeding crap to people about me. You're paranoid. That's not my fault." A loud slam. A pause. Then footsteps storming out. I ducked into the science wing before they saw me. I didn't need to listen further. The cracks weren't cracks anymore. They were fractures. And soon, she'd be standing in the ruins of her own kingdom. But I still needed to be careful. Madison was dangerous, even when cornered, maybe especially when cornered. If she found out it was me, she'd go nuclear. That night, I went deeper. I hacked into the school's forgotten alumni forum. Not the current student portal, but one hosted on a neglected subdomain. Sloppy security, easy to slip in. I created a fake user and posted under an old thread called Unwritten Rules of Lincoln High. My post was simple. Anyone else notice how the queen bee always walks away clean? Ever wonder what she actually did to Nora Jennings back in freshman year? I logged out. By morning, the post had been screenshotted and spread to at least 6 group chats I had access to. People were talking. Whispers turned to murmurs. Nora Jennings. She was the girl who disappeared from school halfway through freshman year. No one ever really talked about it. Some said she transferred. Some said she was hospitalized. But I had overheard things over the years, rumors that Madison had something to do with it. I didn't need to prove it. I just needed people to wonder. By the end of that week, Madison was slipping. Not publicly. Not yet. But I could see it in her eyes. Something dull and anxious behind all the glitter. She snapped at Tori in the hallway over a dumb comment. She shoved Kylie's books off a desk when she laughed at something Zach said. Even Brielle, her oldest ally, now only walked 2 steps behind her instead of at her side. The throne was still hers, but the floor underneath it was cracking, and she could feel it. One afternoon, as I was heading to the library, I noticed something strange. Zach was waiting by the entrance. For me, he looked nervous, fidgeting with the strap of his bag. As I approached, I felt my guard rise like a wall. "Emma," he said. "Hey, can we talk?" I nodded slowly, unsure of where this was going. We stepped into an empty classroom. He closed the door behind us. I want to say I'm sorry," he said, his voice quiet, "about everything. I didn't know Madison was going to do that. I didn't know about the video until it was already everywhere. And I should have said something. I should have stood up for you." I stared at him, trying to read his face. He looked sincere, but part of me didn't care. "You were afraid," I said. He looked down. "I know," he admitted, "but that's not an excuse." Silence stretched between us, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity, not for myself, for him, because Zach was just another victim of Madison's control, just like so many others. He wasn't evil. He was weak. And weakness, well, it had no place in my new world. I nodded once and left the room without another word. As I walked back down the hallway, the image of Madison's perfect world slowly collapsing behind her burned in my mind. I wasn't done. Not even close. Her fall wouldn't be sudden. It would be slow, unbearable, a destruction she couldn't escape or stop. Because the next time she looked around for someone to blame, she'd realize she was alone, and I'd be there watching, just like she watched me. The first time I heard someone laugh at Madison Lane instead of with her, it was a whisper of justice, a flicker of the world turning upside down. It happened on a Wednesday. Cold wind pushed through the open courtyard as students huddled around benches, their faces buried in phones and steaming takeout containers. I was walking toward the library Hoodie up, head down, my usual posture, but my ears were wide open. "Did you see the new post?" someone muttered near the vending machines. I swear it's her voice. Sounds exactly like Madison. They were talking about at Queen Snake Files, my creation, my weapon. The account had just uploaded a heavily distorted audio clip. It was short, just 8 seconds, but those 8 seconds were enough. Madison's unmistakable voice. She's replaceable. They all are. No name, no context. But that was the brilliance of it. Madison had said so many cruel things to so many people that almost anyone could believe she was talking about them. That was the post that tipped the scale. For the first time, students weren't just curious, they were uncomfortable. I saw it in the way they looked at her now. Not admiration, not envy, suspicion. By fourth period, she noticed. I watched her in history class. Her leg bounced under the desk, restless. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on people whispering behind their hands. She gripped her pen too tight, jaw clenched like she was holding in a scream. She wasn't used to this, not knowing, not controlling the story. I almost felt bad. Almost. At lunch, her empire cracked in real time. Brielle didn't show up at her table. Neither did Kylie. Tori sat across from her, but barely made eye contact. Madison tried to play it cool, laughing loudly, flipping her hair, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. But I saw her hand shake when she picked up her water bottle. And then it happened. A guy from the basketball team, Connor, someone who used to drool at her feet, walked by and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey, Maddie, which one of us is getting replaced next?" His voice dripped with sarcasm, but the laughter it triggered, that was real. Her face froze, just for a second, but I saw it. There it is, I thought. The beginning of the fall. After school, I stayed late. Again. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to see how far the cracks had spread. I sat in the empty library, pretending to read while keeping my headphones in. No music playing, just a ruse. At exactly 3:17 p.m., I heard the door swing open. Madison stormed in like a storm bottled inside silk. She wasn't alone. Zach was behind her. My heart jumped, but I forced myself to remain still, calm, unreadable. They didn't see me tucked between the bookshelves. I slid my chair back, just slightly, enough to hear every word. "What is going on with you lately?" Zach asked. Madison's voice was tight. "You tell me. You're the one acting different." "I'm not the one treating everyone like they're disposable." "So now you believe that account," she snapped. Zach didn't answer. The silence said everything. Madison kept going, her voice rising. "You're seriously going to let some loser with a burner account turn you against me?" Another pause. Then Zach said quietly, "You turn me against you, Madison." Silence. And then the slap. Not loud, but sharp, precise. I flinched. Madison gasped as if she couldn't believe what she'd just done. Zach backed away, stunned, eyes wide with disappointment, not fear. "I'm done," he said. "Whatever this is, it's not who you used to be." Then he left. She didn't chase him. She just stood there, shoulders rigid, fists clenched at her sides, breathing hard. When she finally turned and left, I stayed hidden until the echo of her heels faded completely. I walked out of that library with a quiet sense of victory humming under my skin. Madison Lane had just lost Zach, not because I took him from her, because she drove him away. I didn't have to lift a finger. I simply laid the trap and let her destroy herself. And still I wasn't done. That night, I opened my journal, the black one I kept hidden beneath a loose floorboard in my closet. Inside it were pages of observations, patterns, passwords, secrets, names. I'd been writing in it since the second week of school. Back then, I didn't know what I was going to use it for. Now I did. I flipped to the page labeled Operation Mirror. It was time to do something I'd been planning for weeks. Something Madison would never expect. I logged into another anonymous email address and began drafting a message. This one wasn't for Tori, not for Brielle, not even for Zach. It was for Miss Holbrook, our vice principal. Subject: something you should know about Madison Lane. I hit send and smiled because the storm she created, it was coming back for her, and I was guiding it one quiet gust at a time. Every war has a turning point, a moment where silence ends, masks crack, and all the hidden knives come out. Mine came the day the school finally stepped in. I was sitting in the back of AP English when the announcement echoed through the room. Madison Lane, please report to the main office immediately. The class froze. Not because Madison was called. It happened sometimes, usually for dumb pageant forms or last-minute approvals her mother forgot to sign. But this time, her name didn't sound polished or friendly. It sounded formal, sharp. Even our teacher looked up from her notes. Madison, sitting 2 rows ahead, blinked like she hadn't heard it right. Her perfectly manicured fingers paused on her notebook. Then, slowly, she stood up. As she walked out, I noticed something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply lowered my eyes back to the page in front of me. My mind, however, was already miles away, replaying the message I had sent to Vice Principal Holbrook the night before. It had been carefully crafted. Not slander. Not personal. Just facts. Screenshots from the anonymous account. Evidence that someone had been targeting students through social media, spreading private recordings, creating toxic tension at school. I never mentioned Madison by name, but I didn't have to. The account made it look like she was the one behind it. And Holbrook? She hated scandals more than anything. By lunch, the rumors had already started. They pulled her phone. I heard her mom showed up screaming. They're going to suspend her, maybe even expel her. I pretended not to listen. I sipped from my thermos and took tiny bites of my sandwich, calmly observing the fire spread across the school. It was easy now to be invisible again. No one looked at me anymore. Not the way they used to. Their attention was elsewhere. Madison didn't show up to 4th or 5th period. That alone said everything. By 6th, I found myself wandering the halls with a late pass, drifting toward the front office under the excuse of needing forms signed for the science fair. I didn't care about the fair. I cared about the voices behind the closed door. We have to investigate. If these allegations are even partially true, it's a serious breach of our conduct code. That was Holbrook. And then came the sharp, cutting voice of Madison's mother, Eleanor Lane. My daughter would never do anything like that. She's the victim in this situation. Some jealous little girl is clearly trying to frame her. I froze just outside the office, my heart pounding. She was right. I was that girl. But I wasn't jealous. I was angry. And anger, when sharpened to a blade, cuts deeper than envy ever could. That night, Madison didn't post anything on social media. Not a story. Not a selfie. Not even a reposted quote pretending to be unbothered. She vanished. And by the next morning, it was clear she hadn't come to school. She was gone. Gone. For the first time in what felt like forever, the school felt lighter. I walked into first period without the weight of her gaze on my back, without the low buzzing fear that she might be lurking just around the next corner. People laughed louder that day. Some of her former followers even dared to breathe freely. It felt like spring in the middle of October. But for me, this wasn't relief. It was strategy, because I knew Madison Lane. She wasn't broken. Not yet. She was regrouping. Somewhere behind a screen, behind her parents, behind the silence, she was planning her counterattack. So I prepared for it. I reinforced the @Queen Snake Files account, erasing older IP traces and planting fake clues. I created burner DMs linking the account to someone else, a girl named Morgan who had been suspended last year for bullying. It wasn't real, but it was just plausible enough to serve as a shield if anything came back to me. I also started watching her old allies. Brielle, Kylie, Tori. All of them had drifted apart in Madison's absence. like dogs off a leash, confused, cautious, exposed. I saw them walking alone, eating in new places, talking to people they once would have called losers. It was strange how fast a kingdom could crumble once the queen disappeared. And that was when something unexpected happened. Tori approached me. It was after school. The hallway was nearly empty. I was stuffing my books into my backpack when I heard her voice. Emma. I turned slowly. She looked nervous. Her eyes darted around as if someone might be watching. I know we've never talked, she said, but can I ask you something? I raised an eyebrow, pretending to be confused. About what? She hesitated. Did you create that account? My blood went cold, but my face didn't change. What account? Tori bit her lip. The one about Madison. At Queen Snake Files. Everyone thinks it's Brielle now, but I don't know. You've been quiet through all of this. Like too quiet. She wasn't accusing me. Not yet. She was testing me. I smiled politely. No idea what you're talking about. She watched me for a moment, then nodded and walked away. But something in her face told me she wasn't satisfied. That night, I wrote in my journal under a new heading. Tori equals risk. She was nosy. She filmed everything. She noticed things most didn't. And worst of all, she wasn't loyal to anyone anymore. Not Madison, not Brielle, not even herself. If I didn't manage her, she'd become a problem. But problems? I solved those. Just like I solved Madison. Or so I thought. Because the next morning, I received a message. Not from a random account. Not from a burner. But from my real inbox. No subject. No name. Just 2 words. Nice try. And below it, a photo of me in the library, sitting behind the bookshelf. The same day Madison slapped Zach. The same day I listened to everything. Someone had seen me. Someone had been watching me while I was watching her. And just like that, the hunter had become the hunted. For weeks, I had been the one watching from the shadows, listening, planning. Every step Madison took, I saw it before she made it. Every word she spoke, I turned it into a weapon. But now, someone was watching me, and they wanted me to know it. That photo, the one of me hidden in the library, wasn't some coincidence. It was taken from the opposite aisle, angled just enough to see my face through the gaps in the bookshelf. The timestamp on the image was burned into the bottom. 3:21 p.m. Friday. The exact moment Madison slapped Zach. Whoever sent it had been there. Close. Too close. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My mind spinning. This wasn't just someone stumbling onto my secret. This was a message. Someone knew. But why hadn't they exposed me yet? Why only the photo? Why the words, nice try? I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept retracing every step, every room I'd been in, every face I'd seen. Could it have been a teacher? Another student? Had I missed a security camera? No. I had been careful, which meant this wasn't about evidence. This was about control. Whoever sent the photo didn't want to ruin me, yet they wanted to rattle me. And it was working. By morning, the walls of my room felt too close. My skin itched with anxiety. I didn't eat. I barely looked in the mirror. I couldn't, because for the first time since I started all of this, I felt hunted. At school, I tried to hold it together, tried to keep my routine. Normal, predictable, but everything looked different now. Every whisper in the hallway sounded like a threat. Every laugh behind my back could be someone plotting to turn the tables. I scanned the crowd constantly, looking for a clue, a signal, a crack. I expected it to come from Brielle, or maybe even Tori, but I was wrong. It came from someone invisible, just like I used to be. Eli Turner, quiet, bookish, tall and forgettable. He sat in the second row of our chemistry class, always scribbling notes with earbuds in. No one ever spoke to him, not even the teachers. He was just there, until the moment he sat beside me in the library after school and said, "I know it was you." I didn't flinch. I didn't answer. But I looked at him. And he smiled. Not cruel. Not mocking. Just calm. Certain. I saw you, he said. That day in the stacks. The slap. The way you listened without moving. The way you walked away before Madison saw you. I swallowed hard but said nothing. You're the one behind the account, he added. Aren't you? Still, I didn't answer. Because this was a test. A trap. A bluff, maybe. Or maybe… Relax, he said, leaning back. I'm not going to tell anyone. That stopped me. I narrowed my eyes. Why? He gave a soft laugh. Because I hate her too. I blinked. You think you're the only one she's destroyed? He continued, voice quiet. Freshman year. She accused me of hacking the school servers just because I fixed a Chromebook for a teacher. I got suspended for 2 weeks. My parents grounded me for 3 months. College interviews still bring it up. His eyes darkened. She never apologized. Never even looked at me again. I didn't speak for a while. Just stared at him. He looked ordinary. But there was something else in his eyes now. Something sharp. Familiar. Rage. Buried under years of silence. Finally, I asked, why tell me this now? He shrugged. Because you're better at it than I was. You've already done more damage in 2 weeks than I could have in a year. I want in. I leaned forward slowly. You want to help me? He nodded. No one suspects me. I'm invisible, like you used to be. I watched him carefully. There was risk in letting anyone into my plan, but there was also risk in walking alone now that someone else had eyes on me. I needed backup, a shield, a tool, maybe even a friend. I slid a folded paper toward him. No words, just a username and password. Prove I can trust you, I said. He took the paper and tucked it into his pocket like it was nothing. That night, he uploaded the next post to @QueenSnakeFiles. It was a screenshot. Nothing scandalous. Just a cropped photo of a group chat. Queen Brielle 98. She's spiraling. I told her not to mess with that girl. No names. No context. But the rumors reignited instantly. People started pointing fingers again. At Brielle this time. Exactly what I needed. The next day, the entire cafeteria was buzzing. And Madison? She was back. She walked in late. Black sunglasses, no makeup, hair in a messy bun. A ghost of her former self. She sat alone. No one dared approach her. And when she looked across the room, our eyes met. For the first time ever, she didn't look smug. She looked lost. That's when I knew. She still didn't know it was me. But someone did. And now Eli Turner was part of the game, which meant the war had changed. No more solo missions. This was a 2-person operation now, and we weren't just watching anymore. We were about to strike. In the quiet corners of Lincoln High, a war was unfolding, silent, surgical, and completely invisible to most. By now, Madison Lane's crown was cracked, her empire fractured. But taking her down wasn't enough anymore. Not for me. She needed to feel what I had felt. Powerless. Alone. Watched. And with Eli Turner beside me, we were ready to move faster, bolder. He was the quiet type, not because he was shy, but because he was always calculating. He had this unnerving way of making things happen behind the scenes, like an architect designing collapse. By the following Monday, he had gained access to something I hadn't dared to touch. Madison's private group chats. How? He simply plugged a USB into a school computer when Brielle left her Gmail open in the library. Sloppy, he said, handing me a folder of printed screenshots 2 days later. She never logged out. Inside were months of messages between Madison, Brielle, and Tori. Messages dripping with cruelty, plans to sabotage classmates, cheat on tests, lie to teachers, manipulate boys. There were nicknames for almost every girl in school. I saw my name, too. Chem loser. Madison's exact words. She looks like she sleeps in a science lab. Zach must be into charity cases. I didn't flinch. I didn't need reminders of what she'd done to me. This was never about names. It was about power. I have an idea, I told Eli. He raised a brow. Let's let the school see what the queen really thinks of her kingdom. The next morning, we executed Operation Crown Shatter. Eli created a website, Basic, Clean, Anonymous. We titled it, Inside the Hive, and then we uploaded the messages. Not all of them, just enough to make it feel real. Conversations targeting students who still had some social weight, like cheerleaders and athletes who'd once backed Madison but now kept their distance. There was a quote from Madison mocking a girl named Lila for gaining weight. Another about Ryan, the swim team captain. His dad's rich, but he smells like a basement. It was petty, cruel, and real. We posted the link anonymously in a student Discord server and let it spread. By lunch, everyone knew. Phones lit up, gasps echoed, and for the first time since the war began, I saw fear ripple outward, not toward me, but away from her. Because Madison wasn't just unpopular now. She was radioactive. Students started unfollowing her in real time. I saw it. One girl in front of me at lunch, scrolling through her Instagram, hovering over the following button, then tapping it. Unfollowed. Madison entered the cafeteria 10 minutes later. Her shoulders were rigid. Her sunglasses were gone. Her expression blank. She walked to her usual table, but no one was there. Not Brielle. Not Kylie. Not Tori. She sat down alone, and the silence around her was deafening. And then, as she stood up, slowly, and left, just like that, vanished. Do you think she knows it was us? Eli asked later that day, leaning against a bookshelf in the far corner of the library. Not yet, I said. But she will, he added. I didn't answer. I was thinking the same thing. Because we were too good, too precise, too invisible. But invisibility doesn't last forever. That night, I received another message. Same anonymous inbox as before. No subject. No greeting. Just a question. You think you're safe now? Attached was a file. I hesitated, then opened it. It was an audio clip, Madison's voice, but not from any post we'd shared. Not from the group chat. This was recent. She thinks she's in control, but she has no idea what I'm really capable of. The audio cut off there. It wasn't something she had sent to anyone. It sounded like a recording, a private moment. Had someone been recording her? If so, who? It wasn't Eli. I asked him directly the next day. He didn't even try to lie. That wasn't me, he said, brows furrowed. And I'm not the only one watching, Emma. We should have known that. That night, paranoia hit me like a flood. What if this had all spiraled too far? What if I wasn't just playing a game anymore? What if I was being played, too? I returned to my journal, flipping through old entries, connections, names, patterns, trying to find the leak. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. A page torn from the back. I hadn't torn it. Someone had been in my room. Someone had found my journal. And now, they were waiting to strike. There's a special kind of silence that comes when you realize someone has been in your room. It's not just the absence of noise. It's a presence, a weight in the air. Like someone's fingerprints still cling to the edges of the furniture. Invisible, but real. That's how it felt when I stared at the back of my journal and saw the torn page. I didn't panic. Not at first. I did what I always do. I observed. Checked the floorboard where I kept the journal. No signs of force. No scratches, no mess. Whoever had taken the page hadn't searched wildly. They knew where to look. I flipped through the remaining entries slowly, my pulse loud in my ears. The missing page. It wasn't random. I remembered exactly what I wrote there. Timeline Madison's collapse. It had every step of my plan. From the moment the locker prank broke me to at Queen Snake Files to the email to Vice Principal Holbrook. If someone had that page, they had my entire blueprint. The only thing they didn't have was my name attached to it, unless they already knew. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to figure it out. Who had been in my room? How did they get in? When? I thought of my parents. But no, they never went near my journal. And even if they did, they wouldn't have taken a page and left everything else untouched. No, this wasn't an accident. It was a message. The next day at school, I watched everyone more closely than ever before. Torai? She was back to filming everything, but she looked rattled. Eyes darting. Jumpy. Not confident enough to be my blackmailer. Brielle? Still avoiding Madison's gaze. Her loyalty now reduced to silence. She was more concerned with salvaging her own reputation than getting revenge for anyone else. Eli. The thought chilled me. But no, he had no reason to scare me. He'd gained too much by working with me. So who? And then a twist. During fourth period, the intercom buzzed again. Emma Collins, please report to the counseling office. It felt like someone punched me in the stomach. Had someone told? Did Holbrook know? I packed my bag slowly, keeping my face blank. But inside I was shaking. When I reached the office, the secretary nodded and pointed to the second door. Room B. He's waiting for you. He. I opened the door. And there, sitting across from the desk in his neatly ironed blazer, was Dr. Mark Rowan, the new school counselor. Young, fresh out of grad school, overly friendly. Emma, he said with a polite smile. Thanks for coming. Take a seat. I did, quietly, eyes locked on his. I just wanted to check in with you, he said, folding his hands. There's been a lot going on around the school lately, and I know you were targeted earlier this semester. I nodded slowly. I'm fine. I believe you, he said. But sometimes when someone gets hurt, they don't always stay passive. I said nothing. He leaned forward slightly. Would you say you've recovered from what happened with Madison Lane? My throat felt tight. Yes. Good, he said with a smile. Because someone's clearly very invested in taking her down. The posts, the gossip, the screenshots. He let that hang in the air. I don't follow that stuff, I said, voice flat. Of course, he said, still smiling. But then he opened a folder. Inside it was a photocopy of a page. My handwriting. But not just any page. The one that was missing. I froze. The counselor slid it forward gently. Someone left this under my office door last night, he said calmly. No name. Just this. I stared at it. The ink. The bullet points. The title. Timeline Madison's Collapse. Every line screamed of guilt. Of planning. Of malice. I forced my voice steady. It's not mine. Dr. Rowan tilted his head. Are you sure? Looks like a revenge journal to me. Pretty detailed. I said nothing. He continued, You're not in trouble. Not yet. I'm just trying to help you. If someone's trying to set you up or threaten you, you can tell me. I don't need to tell the principal unless there's danger involved. Danger. The word lingered between us. I nodded once. If I find out who planted that, I'll let you know. He studied me. For a moment, I thought he might press further. But instead, he smiled and closed the folder. Thanks for coming, Emma. I left the room with my heart hammering so hard I could barely hear my footsteps. Someone had stolen my plan and turned it into a trap. And they'd chosen to give it to the counselor, not the administration, not Holbrook, not the police. Why? Because they wanted to corner me. Slowly, privately, psychologically. They didn't want to destroy me. They wanted to watch me unravel. I found Eli after school, near the back exit by the gym. He was leaning against the brick wall, sipping a soda like he hadn't just helped burn down half the social hierarchy. I walked straight up to him and handed him the photocopy. His eyes scanned it, his brow furrowed. You told me you kept your journal hidden. I did, I said coldly. Someone found it, and now they're playing games. He looked genuinely pissed. You think it was me? I don't know, I said, but I didn't tell anyone else. And I sure as hell didn't leave this under a counselor's door. He looked away for a moment, then nodded. I believe you. Good, said. Because if I find out you're lying, this won't end with Madison. Eli nodded again. Then we find out who did it. Together. I stared at him for a moment, trying to read the sincerity in his face. It was there. But trust now? That was a currency I spent carefully. That night, I returned home and went straight to my room, and found another note. This time it was on my pillow. Typed. Anonymous. Folded in half. I unfolded it slowly. It said, "You're not the only one with a list. Sleep well, Emma." My hands trembled, because the game had changed. Someone out there wasn't just watching me. They were studying me. And now, it wasn't just Madison in my sights. Someone had placed me in theirs. You don't realize how loud silence can be until it's weaponized against you. The house was still. No creaking floorboards. No fridge hum. No distant music from my brother's room. Just quiet. And that note, "You're not the only one with a list," resting on my pillow like a razor blade dipped in ink. Typed. No handwriting. No smudges. No fingerprints. Clean. It could have been anyone. Left at any time. And yet, I hadn't heard a single sound. That was the part that unnerved me. Whoever this was, they weren't just playing my game. They were beating me at it. The next day at school, the air felt charged, like everyone knew something but wasn't saying it. Hallways were quieter. People looked over their shoulders more. Eyes lingered longer. I checked my locker first thing. Nothing. Then the bathroom. Empty. No new messages. No new posts on @Queensnake Files. Not even whispers of Madison. But that absence was the real message. Whoever left that note wasn't trying to cause chaos. They were watching me wait for it. This was psychological warfare. By fourth period, I was done playing nice. I cornered Eli near the chemistry lab, just as the bell rang. "It wasn't you," I said. He blinked. "The note?" I nodded. Someone got into my house again. They left another message. This time it was typed. Direct threat. He ran a hand through his hair. "Jesus, you think they've been inside before?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The answer was obvious. He glanced down the hall. "You think it's Madison?" I shook my head. She's not that subtle. If she wanted to get even, she'd post something, expose someone. This is calculated. Close range. Patient. Eli frowned. "Then who the hell?" That's when we heard it. A slam down the hallway. A door. Followed by a shriek. Students started flooding toward the sound. My heart sped up as I moved with them. When I rounded the corner, I stopped cold. It was Tori. She was on her knees in the middle of the journalism room, holding her phone with both hands, shaking. Her lips were parted, but no words came out. Just sobs. On the projector screen behind her, a video was playing. It was grainy, black and white security footage. A timestamp in the corner. April 7th. Tori. Standing over the copy machine. Feeding test answers into it. Laughing. Taking photos. Selling them. The entire room watched in stunned silence. Then came the worst part. The screen cut to black. A single text line appeared. Tori Green. Fraud. Thief, liar. One down. Gasps. Whispers. Phones lifted. Screenshots taken. The projector shut off on its own. Someone had hacked the system. The journalism teacher screamed at everyone to get out. Tori collapsed against the wall, eyes hollow, completely broken. But I couldn't move, because I knew something. That video didn't come from me. And it didn't come from Eli either. His expression was frozen in pure shock beside me. So who? We left the scene as faculty rushed in. I pulled Eli into an empty stairwell. "That wasn't us," I said flatly. He nodded. "No, but it was someone like us. Someone with access, who knew what to show, who to hit." He looked at me. They called it one down. Like it's a list. My blood ran cold. Like the list I kept. Like the one in the missing journal page. "This is bigger than Madison," I whispered. "Yeah," Eli said. "And someone just escalated it." That night, I received another email from a new anonymous address. Subject line: You always thought you were original. No text, just a link. I clicked it, heart hammering. It led to a hidden Google Drive folder, one I'd never seen. Inside, dozens of files, photos, videos, screenshots, not just of Madison, but of Brielle, Tori, Kylie, Zach, even some teachers, private moments, secret messages, recordings from years ago, some I had never seen in my life. It was a digital vault, a dossier, a graveyard of reputations. At the very bottom of the list, a single video file titled, Emma, Locker Cam. I clicked it. It showed me, back in September, standing in front of my locker, crying, right after the prank, right after the footage of me had gone viral. I thought I'd been alone, but the angle was different from above. Someone had placed a camera inside the ceiling vent. They'd been watching me since the beginning. This wasn't just some new enemy. They'd been here the whole time, tracking everything, everyone, a predator hiding in the background while I thought I was the one controlling the story. And now, they had me, not exposed, not ruined, but trapped. Because if they could see everything, they could control everything. And the worst part, they hadn't even asked me for anything yet. They were letting the fear grow, letting me wonder, when would they strike? Who would be next? What would they do with all the pieces I had moved? Because I thought I was playing chess, but I was just another piece, and someone else had been moving me all along. I had always believed revenge was about power, taking back control, turning silence into strategy, making them feel what they made you feel, helpless, humiliated, invisible. But now I understood the truth. Revenge isn't about control. It's about exposure. And I was the one being exposed. The folder in the anonymous Google Drive stayed with me all night. I couldn't stop watching the files, as if each one held a key. But it only got worse with every click. There were time-stamped videos of students cheating, fights in stairwells, teachers caught yelling behind closed doors, hookups in janitor closets. Someone had recorded years of secrets at Lincoln High. I found one from last year, Brielle pushing a freshman against a locker, threatening her with expulsion if she didn't hand over her homework. Another showed Zach copying his college essay word for word from a Reddit post. It wasn't just blackmail. It was documentation. Whoever this was, they weren't just watching. They were archiving sins. And I had walked right into their archive. I'd played their game, thinking it was mine. At the bottom of the Drive folder, one final document had appeared. Underscore the list final candidates. PDF. I clicked it. Inside was a spreadsheet. No names, just aliases. Queen Bee status collapsed. Gossip Ghost status compromised. Lab Rat status active. The Watcher status unknown. I stared at the one labeled Lab Rat. My heart pounded. That was me. Who else would it be? Lab Rat. A mocking name. A cage. The label beside it. Status active. I wasn't just being watched. I was still useful. Someone wanted me in play. But why? What was the end game? The next morning, school was split into factions. Some students avoided eye contact, afraid their secrets might be next. Others walked with fake confidence, hoping no one had dirt on them. But everyone knew something had shifted. And Madison? She was back, more polished than before. Hair straightened, lip gloss shining, a new designer bag hanging off her arm. She walked the halls like she still owned them, but her eyes told the truth. They darted, calculating, watching, because even she knew she wasn't at the top anymore. Not even close. We passed each other near the lockers, shoulder to shoulder. She didn't stop, but just as I walked by, she said under her breath, "You're not the only one they're playing, Collins." I turned sharply. What? She kept walking, like a ghost gliding through smoke. That night, I found another note, this time in my backpack, buried between my chemistry folder and my journal, typed, like the last one, "Do you want the truth? Come alone. Thursday, midnight, gymnasium." No signature, just that same invisible pressure, coiling tighter around my throat. I stared at the note until my fingers went numb. There was only one response left. Go, or be destroyed. Thursday, 11:57 p.m. Lincoln High stood like a skeleton under the moonlight. Hollow. Still. I crept in through the west entrance, the one Eli had shown me how to bypass with a wire. The halls groaned beneath my feet, the fluorescent lights above humming faintly like whispers. I clutched my phone. Eli had offered to come, but I refused. Whoever left the notes didn't want a team. They wanted me. The gym was dark. The bleachers loomed like broken teeth in the shadows. A single light glowed in the center of the court. A laptop sat there, waiting. I stepped toward it, my heart thudding with every step. When I reached it, the screen lit up on its own. A video began to play. Me, in the library, sitting in the shadows, headphones in, spying on Madison and Zach. The same footage from the photo. It played in complete silence. Then a second video opened, Madison crying in the bathroom, the day after she was called to the office. A third, Brielle screaming at Kylie in the parking lot. A fourth, Eli sneaking into the server room after school. The footage flicked by like a horror montage. And then, a new clip, grainy, night vision, dated 2 weeks ago. It showed someone entering a bedroom. My bedroom, the floorboard opening, my journal being lifted out, the page torn. I gasped, my knees locking in place. The camera panned slightly, just enough to catch the edge of a reflection in the mirror. Someone in a hoodie, a faint profile. Not Eli, not Madison. Someone else. The video froze on that image. Then black screen, and a new line of text appeared. Hello, Labrat. You've done well, but this isn't your story anymore. It's mine now. X. I backed away from the laptop, my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, run, fight, something, but I did nothing, because I understood now. This wasn't about Madison. Not anymore. This wasn't about revenge. This was about control. About X. Whoever they were, they'd been pulling strings since the beginning. And now, I was just another puppet. After the video in the gym, I didn't sleep for 2 days. My mind ran in circles, trying to chase a ghost with no face. X. Whoever they were, they had footage of everything. Me, Madison, Eli, even my room. But the scariest part wasn't the footage. It was the message. You've done well, but this isn't your story anymore. It's mine now. No threats. No demands. Just a declaration. As if I had been writing their story the whole time. As if they'd been shaping mine since the moment Madison destroyed me. And I realized something. If I didn't take back the narrative now, there would be no more Emma Collins. Only Labrat. Only a file in X's collection. Friday, 2:13 a.m. I met Eli behind the old science building, the only place on campus with no cameras. He was pale, wired, and angry. I've been watching the server, he said. Whoever X is, they're not just a student. This level of access? This isn't just surveillance. It's built in, like they've been inside the system for years. Or they are the system, I whispered. He blinked. What do you mean? I stared into the dark. I think it's faculty. He laughed, but it was nervous. Come on, that's paranoid. But it made too much sense. How else would someone get into my house undetected? Slip notes into my locker, my bag, my bedroom? How else would someone have years of surveillance files? The next day, I made a move I never imagined I'd make. I knocked on Madison Lane's front door. She opened it in sweats, no makeup, confusion across her face. What the hell are you doing here? I think we're both being hunted, I said. We met in secret, me, Madison, and Eli. We didn't trust each other, but we had one thing in common. X wanted us silenced. Madison confessed that she, too, had gotten a note. Weeks ago, it read, "You're not untouchable. You're just next." She thought it was me. I thought it was her. But neither of us realized. We were both just players. The real enemy was bigger than any of us. The plan. If X wanted to control the narrative, we had to destroy their platform. And Eli had a way in. He traced X's videos to a hidden partition on the school's main server, a place only 2 people had the keys to access. The district's IT administrator, Dr. Mark Rowan, the school counselor. My blood ran cold. It was him. The fake smiles, the check-ins, the photocopied journal page that just appeared in his office, the way he asked just enough to scare me, but not enough to act. He had been watching us, guiding us, pushing pieces across a board. A grown man playing God with teenage lives. The break-in. Saturday night. Midnight. The 3 of us, me, Eli, and yes, even Madison, broke into the school server room using Eli's duplicate keycard. I found the folder. Project Hydra. Inside, dozens of logs, surveillance files, profiles on every student, including one titled labrat_termination.docs. I opened it. Inside was a script, a confession, written in my voice, designed to look like I cracked, like I was the villain, like I had framed Madison, blackmailed Eli, leaked grades caused panic. It even ended with a fake suicide note. I nearly threw up. This wasn't a revenge game. This was a cover-up, a future headline in the making. Troubled teen behind cyber attacks, found dead. Case closed. No questions. No legacy. Just silence. I refused. We deleted everything. Every file. Every log. Every secret. Eli wiped the drives, burned the backups, and looped a virus into the system that would corrupt every attempt to recover the data. Project Hydra died that night. And Dr. Rowan? He resigned the following week. The official story was personal reasons. But I knew better. He knew we had him. We didn't need to expose him. We just needed him to know what it felt like. To be powerless. 3 weeks later, the school moved on. Torai got a new friend group. Brielle switched schools. Madison stopped trying to be queen and started pretending to be human. And me? I kept my head down, but I never stopped watching. Not because I was scared, because I understood something now. The game never really ends. There's always someone watching. There's always another X. And sometimes, you have to become the fire to survive the smoke. So if you're still wondering who won, it wasn't Madison. It wasn't Dr. Rowan. It wasn't even X. It was me. Because I wrote the last page. I closed the file. I told the story. On my terms. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Revenge Fury. Hit the like button. Leave your theories in the comments and turn on notifications because more dark, twisted, and shocking stories are coming your way. Subscribe now before you become the next story.